what we're going to talk about today is whether Ferrari should just go ahead and fold it this year and save their resources for next year. But before we do that, they're not going to bring up upgrades to the next race, which is where's the next race going to be again? It's going to be at
Is it 2 weeks from now?
oh, it's going to be next week. I'm trying to remember where it's going to be again. Oh, it's going to be at Miami. Yeah. So
Yes,
so
yes, before they go to the other tracks in Europe. Yes.
yeah, I wonder if it's even necessary for them to bring upgrades. But they said they're supposed to bring some upgrades, but they're going to wait to Imola, which is after Miami. And the
Yeah.
reasoning they're using is that um, at Miami, it's a sprint format, so you don't get free practices and things to test data and information. So they want to save that whole package and everything for Imola, where there's chances to do upgrades and stuff like that. I don't know if that really makes sense. I would why not bring the upgrades this week and push them to next week? Unless maybe you can enlighten me. Do upgrades only work for one track and then you can't use them again, or what's the how does that work? Because if the upgrades stay, then they can be for the rest of the season. They might as well bring them in now and test them and continue testing the upgrades at the next track. But I don't know how upgrades work. What do you think? Yeah.
I think that they're just trying to make sure they believe that without the upgrades, they should finish their two cars should finish within the top 10 and get some points. Or they could even do slightly better. They may not win, but they're thinking they'd rather take those lesser points than risk putting in an upgrade. It doesn't work and it sets them back and they lose those points. So I think that they don't mind if Leclerc picks up fifth and Hamilton picks up seventh or sixth, and then they just take those points and then they move on to Imola. And before Imola, they can actually test
Yeah, but the
those
only thing is
upgrades
but here's the
so
thing.
that the risk is less of losing points. They can
But to me,
either decide to live with them or not.
it's the same though, because if they don't use the upgrades here, then it's going to be a risk at Imola. Do you see what I'm saying? They can't avoid the risk.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that Imola at least will have a chance to test the risk before they take it, whereas here
Oh,
they can't
if they don't
test the
use it
risk. So
before they use it in the race. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
yes, yes. So I think that's probably why they're being
Okay,
cautious.
that makes sense.
But
Yeah.
in respect to Ferrari, if you're a Ferrari fan, now is the time to take advantage of Ferrari's prestigious year and buy yourself one of their supercars. Because whenever they do badly in Formula One, they always make very beautiful cars for sale in production.
Yeah.
So
So in
have
other
a
words,
look at
worry
what
about
they're
money
selling.
rather than winning. You ain't gonna win. Yeah.
Yes, it's when they make the rubbish cars that they tend to do well during the season. So they're doing some nice cars right now. So yeah,
Use
it's a
some of
good
that
time
money
to
for the
buy
wind tunnel.
Ferrari.
Use some
Yeah.
of that money for the winter. But I think there's salary caps, but they can get around that. Yeah, but let's go to the next topic. I think basically they should forget about spending too many resources, because there's no way they're going to win the constructors. Absolutely no way. Do you see them having any chance? They're so far behind in points, more than 100 points. And I don't think there's any way that Leclerc can win the drivers. Leclerc is a good driver, almost as good as Verstappen, but there's no way you can do that when McLaren is so fast and Verstappen is there. So they're too far behind. So it doesn't really make sense for them to continue, except for pride. Maybe if they want to try to score as many points and try to win. But other than pride, I don't see any upside to them continue with this season. They should focus fully on next season, which will give them the best chance to finally win a championship for Hamilton or Leclerc. If they're rational, that's what they need to do. They need to give up this season the way that Aston Martin has and focus. But it's hard to do because they're going to take stinging insults by losing this year. But it doesn't matter. They've already lost. I think their season is gone. What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Ferrari's season is pretty much ruined. It's pretty much over for the time being. Yes, they should focus on improving Leclerc
Yeah, Leclerc
for
has a
next
chance.
season. Yes,
Mm.
Leclerc has a chance, but they should forget it. They're not going to do anything. The
No, no.
constructors or anything. Nothing like that's going to happen. All they need to do is try to make some progress over the rest of the course of this season and focus on what they can do to significantly improve next season. They've taken a step back using science. They shouldn't have gotten rid of science. I think science and Leclerc were already in the system, and had they improved their car, and
Oh, yeah.
Ferrari's problem is not so much just the driver. The team is as much of a problem as the driver. And when I say the team, the strategy of the team, they're making a lot of strategic mistakes. And also the engineering of the team, the mechanics, the bodywork. So it's not just the drivers aren't even really the problem. And the
No,
car, I don't
we'll get
understand.
to
The
Hamilton.
drivers
Hamilton
aren't
has
the
a problem
problem.
though. Yeah,
They've
yeah,
got
and
a
you're right.
fast car and they've
And you
got
know
good
what's funny?
drivers.
You know what's funny? When they
And
had the car a couple of years ago, they were faster than Verstappen. Verstappen beat them. They were messing up with things like pit stops. They've gotten better with pit stops, but like you said, their strategy makes no sense. Then I keep saying it, when you already have a concept for a car that's pushed through all of these years of the ground effect era, they made a radical change by changing the front suspension. I don't know what they were thinking. There's no logic to it. They should have, because last year they were the second fastest car. So you thought it would have been think that they would keep the car the same as it is. If they had kept the car the same as it is, Leclerc may have won a race or two this year because Leclerc was winning races last year and they were doing well. And in tandem, if they had kept, because people say that Sainz is the best, one of the best drivers, even better than Verstappen, in giving feedback to engineers and improving cars. We see how he's put Williams now, where Williams is the fifth best car based on his feedback, even if he doesn't win races. So they messed up everything to bring Hamilton, and I think they did it just for, like you said, sensationalism to make money. So since that's the case, they should just focus on their domestic car, I mean, their car sales rather than racing cars, their supercar sales. What do you think? Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you on that about Sainz because Sainz stayed, Ferrari would have sort of done similarly as they did last season, this season, which is still better than what they're doing now. And we wouldn't have noticed so much some of their errors and their problems they're making because Sainz would have been a lot closer. In fact, Sainz was knocking on Leclerc's door
Yeah. He was
constantly.
that
I
good.
mean, yes,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, Hamilton is miles behind Leclerc, and
Mm-hmm.
Leclerc is doing the same as he was last season. He hasn't progressed into winning races. He was even winning one or two races last season. He's even a bit less this season, but he's still up there. He's still pretty much where he was last season.
Who signed?
And this, Leclerc. Leclerc is pretty
Leclerc.
much similar to what he did
I think
last
I
season.
think he stepped it up a little bit because he pushed that car. He got a podium, which is insane in that car, man.
Precisely, precisely. And with Sainz, I mean, we're saying the mistake that Ferrari made with their front end, but if Sainz was there and he managed to get good feedback on their front end and he was now threatening to overtake Leclerc, then we'd be talking a completely different story about Ferrari. But because
Yes,
they got problems, and one of the reasons they got problems with their car is also because they've got a new driver in that car. And those
yes,
two
yes.
things combined create a perfect storm to ruin
And
driver
it
two.
takes too much resources, not just money, but time to fit him in. And it's what's really destroyed their championship race. Because what they should have done is, the last year it went down to the last day for the drivers for the constructor championship. It went down to the last day, which means they were within. They had a chance to beat McLaren and have the fastest car last year. Now they've gone backwards, and like you said, your resources of having to bring a new driver in, the distraction, messing up the rhythm of the team, it's put them so far back. Like I said, I think they've ruined that decision they made, ruined their competitiveness for this year, and there's no taking it back now. What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah. And also, if you look at Ferrari, Ferrari have the same problem, but they're just better organized. So they got a new driver in as Antonelli in the
You said
team, but
Ferrari.
they're still.
You don't know you mean Mercedes.
I'm sorry,
Mercedes.
Mercedes. Sorry,
Yeah.
Mercedes. You know, Mercedes had this problem. They had to get a new driver in, and their driver is even, I mean, by all expectations, you should say argumentatively that at this point in time, Lewis Hamilton is a better driver than Antonelli. Antonelli could become a better driver than Lewis Hamilton in the future, but for today,
Yeah,
now,
but
we should all
Antonelli's
believe.
finishing. He's. I think he has more points than Hamilton though. But I think it's
Yeah, he
because of
has
the
more
car.
points.
Because of the
So
car.
if you exactly, so going by that bearing
Oh
and
yeah,
going by how
Hamilton. So what you're saying is that if Hamilton hadn't left, he would be up there for a chance of getting podiums with Russell. Yeah, if he hadn't left.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, because he was fighting. I mean, even when Russell beat him, he was still having knickknacks with. He
And
was still
he had
fighting.
better race pace than he was doing better in race pace than Russell. Yeah.
Exactly. So even if Russell did overtake him, he was still doing well enough with Russell that he would have been far better off staying
Oh,
at
yeah.
Mercedes. And the fact that Antonelli is now beginning to do well in Mercedes as a rookie driver also tells you more of the mistake that Hamilton made. But also the fact that they're doing well with Antonelli because the Mercedes team, I believe Mercedes and McLaren have excellent teams. I think that
Yeah.
their teams are the best. Red Bull is almost as good, but Red Bull's
On
focus is on
Verstappen.
one driver, it's on Verstappen. Whereas Mercedes and McLaren, they're focused on the team, the structure, the constructors, they focus on everything. Red Bull
Yeah.
focuses on driver one. Yeah. And
Yeah,
on driver
yeah. So,
one,
so McLaren has McLaren and Mercedes have the best balance between driver and also constructors. Best balance between
precisely.
that. Yeah, and that's why they're the top two. And Mercedes has figured out its problems with its unpredictability. And what they did was they just made modest changes. Funnily enough, Mercedes didn't make much changes to their car this year because they are also focused on next year where they're supposed to be the fastest car with the engine. But it doesn't matter because at least they have consistency. Consistency is more important than all these flamboyant, or what's the word I wouldn't use, exotic changes to your car. It's better to be same thing with Red Bull. Red Bull is now getting better from their slump last year. They haven't made any super changes. They just worry about setup from track to track. So I think that the big mistake that Ferrari made was too many exotic changes, bringing in a new driver at the age of 40, then changing their front suspension, totally changing their concept. Big mistake by them. Yeah. And this is
Yes, I mean, science is like the immigrant worker that is being dismissed unfairly because they
yeah,
don't appreciate that he's the one that's actually making the big bucks for Ferrari because
yeah,
he was doing so well in that car. Science is actually the black man of Formula One right now in that
yeah.
sense
No, no,
because
he's a
Hamilton
Mexican, he's a
has,
Mexican laborer.
yeah,
I speak
yeah,
well, I speak
Hamilton
Spanish.
Hamilton has media appeal. The
Yeah,
actual
Hamilton
victim
is
of
the Michael Jackson.
yes. So he's actually not got that problem. Science has actually got the science. If there was no Hamilton, we would all be supporting science, saying, nah, these are only Negro in
Oh
the
yeah,
race.
and as you see, Science finally beat Albon. So and what Science does is he has work ethic. He was losing to Albon earlier, but he's like, I'm just taking my time. I know that I'm losing now, but because I'm getting used to the car, and he's catch. And this has been a victory because everybody was crying for Science. They're like, this is so. I feel so bad for Science. He's not going to be in the top five anymore, but he is because
He's right up there.
he pushed that car from ninth to fifth, which is very good. Okay, so let's quickly talk about Hamilton. Part of the problem with Hamilton is that he's 40, and someone broke it down. They said that when you're 40, you actually realize that you can die. I think Verstappen and these guys, they're 20 years old. They don't think they rely off of instinct. But Hamilton is so smart that he does more than instinct. He's like, wait a minute, if I take this corner like this is some
What
shit.
if
So
the car
same
doesn't
thing like
work?
you and
What
me when
if
we were
the
young.
brakes
When we
fail?
were young, we drive to the street. I see everything, buy things. But now we're 40. Wait, if I get arrested today, oh, I need to buy Cerelac for my child. You get my point. So
Even me, even when I'm in the taxi and the
yeah,
taxi man starts driving fast, I just tell him, please, oh, okay, I have five
yeah. And
children.
the first thing I
I
think
always
about
tell
is my
anybody
child.
that.
Yeah,
Anyone that
Hamilton doesn't
threatens
have
me with,
children. Yeah, Hamilton
yeah,
doesn't
I
have
always tell
children,
them
but
I
he has
have
Diddy.
five children.
Hamilton doesn't have children, but he has Diddy parties to get to. So he's like, wait a minute, I
Yes.
want no,
Going nowhere.
no, but really, Hamilton is older, and when you get older, you have more fear because you have more experience. It happens to all drivers, even Schumacher. So that, and also the fact that Hamilton is used to the old cars before, which you could push around. The old cars, you could push them around. You could jam the brakes on them. The tires were stronger. Like someone said that today, the way that Schumacher drives, if he drove like that today, the tires would be worn in 5 laps. So the cars have changed. They're sensitive. They're high strung, and it's very difficult to adapt to that type of car and ground effects when you haven't learned that. Whereas these younger drivers, so I think it's a combination of things, and I think that what he should focus on now is just kind of enjoying the last few years of his career and not taking it too seriously. What do you think? Yeah,
Yes, I think so. I think he's fading away. He's going to fade away gradually. I don't. He's going to maybe win one shocker race or one or two
yeah,
races,
maybe
But
Silverstone.
apart from that, he's going to finish mostly outside the top five, but in the
Yeah,
top 10. He will
yeah.
get the occasional finish in the top five. He always finishes his races, so he's always got a chance when some of
And
these
we have to
fast
remember, at
drivers
least he has
crash
a
out.
sprint race victory this year. He has a sprint race
Yeah,
victory this year.
yes, and he has a high percentage of finishing races
Yeah.
without crashing out or engine fail. He manages his engine and his
He
tires
doesn't
very
even lock
well.
out a spin out. Yeah, he doesn't lock
Yeah,
out a
he
spin out.
very rarely, although I hope I haven't put the commentator's curse on him, he very rarely fails to finish races. And sometimes just being able to do that, some of these faster drivers that are supposed to finish ahead of you, either they will push their car or they have engine failure or tire trouble. And Hamilton will just finish wherever he is. Normally,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
his favorite position now is seventh and eighth. Those are his average
yeah.
positions this
I think
season.
he can push it to fourth. It's going to be difficult for him to come third this year, but I think in one or two races he might be able to push it to fourth or so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he can. Well, I don't know about fourth, but I think fifth or sixth.
What's gonna happen. You know what's gonna happen after Piastri wins the championship later on in the year. The team radio will say, "Everybody, stand down. Let Hamilton win. This is his last race."
I think for him to get a podium finish, some of the faster cars need to crash out or
Or
not
somebody will
finish
crash
the
out like
race.
Leclerc because right now Leclerc is pushing. Right now, I would say that Leclerc right now is one of the he might be the driver of the year him and Verstappen. Piastri is almost there, but Piastri still makes mistakes. But Piastri doesn't overdrive the car, and he capitalized off of Verstappen's mistake last week. But I think overall, all out driving, I think it's Leclerc, Verstappen, and also George Russell. What do you think? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think those are the
In no
three people.
particular order, I think
Piastri.
Piastri. I think
Piastri,
Piastri is still slightly behind him because he's still error prone, but his level of talent is fantastic. Yeah. So those are the
yes,
four.
yes, Piastri is rising. He's beginning to rise. You cannot ignore him anymore. He has to be in the conversation more and more frequently. In fact, Piastri and Norris is like America and China. Piastri is like China. Norris is like America.
America, yeah.
America is slightly ahead, but China is catching them, I think, and
Yeah.
about to overtake them.
And
And
and,
that's
and,
what
and the Norris fans are in denial. Piastri, he's not good.
exactly they want to put tariffs.
Australia
So
versus
I
Britain.
think
Australia is now the kingdom because Piastri's from
yes, I
Australia.
think Norris and Piastri are going to do some kind of swap. I also believe
Piastri's going to be the head driver.
I'm also surprised that they haven't crashed. They haven't done a Senna Prost and crashed each other out yet.
Oh, not yet.
Because
Not
I feel that's coming.
That's
that
coming.
has
That's
to be
coming.
coming because Norris.
And you know what? Verstappen will pick up the pieces.
Exactly. Norris is Verstappen and Russell will pick up the pieces. Russell is also
Oh, that Russell guy is dangerous, man.
He's like a vulture.
He's dangerous.
Russell is like a vulture. You know, for Hamilton to do anything, two of these faster drivers need to crash out, and he needs to drive the race of his life just to get to podium. I think he needs two faster cars to crash out, and then for him to drive well. And unless that happens, I don't see him getting even a podium, talk less of a win. So let's leave Hamilton out of it for now. Let's look at the real contenders. And the real contenders are Piastri, Verstappen, and Norris and Russell in that order.
And this is going to be a great season.
Piastri and Verstappen swapping constantly. It's a Piastri
and then there's a separate battle between Russell and Verstappen sometimes because right now they're behind. But with upgrades and also McLaren's going to lose his front whip. We can already see that Red Bull is gaining on McLaren a little bit because even in that last race, if not for Verstappen getting that penalty, he would have won that race. You get my point. And even afterwards, Piastri only won by 2 seconds. Verstappen was closing in. So, like you said, very soon, right now it's a battle between Russell and Verstappen and then Piastri and Norris in the front. But very soon, all four of them are going to be on the same level. You know, and this is going to be a great season. And I think that the people who make the rules and everything foresaw this. You get my point. You know how everyone is scripted a little bit. It's scripted, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's unfortunate. I think Tsunoda didn't finish that last race, but he is getting
because
faster.
of a crash. And Tsunoda is faster
out, but he is getting faster. He is going to prove to be a better wingman than Lawson.
Did you hear Tsunoda? I mean, I don't blame him for saying this, but you know what he said the other day? He said, "It's the car. I'm learning it. After a while, I could beat Verstappen."
Well, I mean, you have to tell yourself that. You have to.
I like
when you were racing at Dinoco, you thought you had a chance. I'm sure when you almost got to.
I took Diana Ball and Ragoli.
Diana Ball and Prima Bolle. You know, I saw that race, that mobile race. You also, I mean, but other people, you never stood a chance against Olakpade and Dinaco. But you know, you were like, I could catch him or Andre Kason. You know, so I think that's the same.
But that was when he was out of shape. Yeah. When he was out of shape.
So, you see now. So that's how Tsunoda feels. He feels that.
I like his spirit. I like his spirit. And also,
I'm in the top 20 best drivers in the world. I've got to be able to do something. That's what he's saying.
That guy is good. All right, so let's head out. So later on today, we'll do Nigeria United. We're talking about the transfer market for the top three, Lukman and what's his other guy's name from Nigeria? And also Boniface. And then we'll talk about Nigeria's chances and qualifiers for World Cup, which it doesn't look too good. All right.
Even if we qualify, we're just going to be there to make up the numbers. I don't even. I'll just be irritated.
Nice one. Nice sunglasses.
Keep those 5 years away from another World Cup for Nigeria.
Oh man, yeah. Keep those glasses for whenever we do Ferrari shows. Are those your kids' glasses or yours?
Those are my kids' glasses, but I've appropriated them because I like the Ferrari. I like them. The red tinted
Ferrari one that the Randall is wearing. Okay, nice one. Tell you.